Good morning, this is Roddy, and today I'm going to be practicing my English again, and I'm going to be talking about this thing here and what this thing reminds me of. This thing here, this statue, reminds me of like a lot of beautiful Japanese concepts that I think are really helpful to so many people. Now, I'm not Japanese. I'm not an expert in Japanese culture or anything of that sort. But then I know like some, which I'm going to share with you right now because, again, this statue reminds me of them. So let's talk about those Japanese concepts. I'm going to be talking about those. Okay, so here we go. So the first thing that this statue reminds me of is Kintsugi. All right, Kintsugi. So the notion behind Kintsugi is that because it's a process of putting like shattered pieces together with the use of like gold, which functions like a glue, attaches shattered pieces together. It reminds us of the beauty of not being perfect. Okay, because we're not perfect because life is not perfect. Okay, and Kintsugi, being Kintsugi, shows us that the things that make us imperfect in a way make us who we are and make us beautiful. So in Kintsugi, when let's say you have a shattered bowl and you attach everything back together in order to repair it, what you get is a bowl glued with gold, and it looks beautiful. Okay, so that's the notion of Kintsugi. That's the principle of Kintsugi, which I think is really helpful because I think that we live in a time where many people are obsessed with perfection. Yeah, I think we live in a time where many people are obsessed with perfection. Okay, whatever perfection is, they're obsessed with it, and when they don't achieve any level of perfection, they blame themselves. All right, but we're humans, right? And so Kintsugi tells us that it's okay. In fact, it's beautiful to be not perfect at all. It has its beauty. Okay, so that's Kintsugi. The next thing that this statue reminds me of is Zen. You've probably heard of the term. But people, when people hear the word Zen, they usually think they usually think of relaxation or meditation, or maybe Buddhist monks, or just people doing meditation. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not saying that people are wrong to think that way. I can't blame them because even I, when I hear the word Zen, those are the first things that I think about. But then Zen is basically non-dualistic thinking. By that I mean you don't because usually especially in the modern world, we think of very dualistic notions. We hyper categorize everything to the point that we cause suffering. So, for example, in the world of politics, either you are for or against a party. Either you are for or against an idea. Like, there's no middle ground. Like, there's no middle ground. But then, what if you just don't care? Or maybe you're not just for any notion, and you're not against any notion. You're just completely yourself. Right? So when you're Zen, you're just that. It's not dualistic thinking. You don't, like, it's a state where you don't think dualistically. Like, you think, oh, this is me and that is that, and we are this and those are that. Now, I'm not saying that categorization is bad. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that it's mentally taxing to hyper categorize everything and impose false dichotomies. So for example, if if people hear you talking about the bad effects of, let's say, modern capitalism, some people might think, you must be a communist. But no, you're just pointing out to facts that, modern capitalism is just, it sucks. It's excessively exploitative, right? So just because, something is not for or against, any notion, doesn't mean that, they are against, your beliefs, or they are for the beliefs of those you don't agree with. It's an insane kind of mindset to have, and it causes suffering, it causes division, it causes conflicts, it causes unsavory interactions, which is sad. Right? So that's Zen anyway. So again, Zen, non-dualistic thinking. Okay. And then we have again another thing that this thing here reminds me of is something poignant. It's Mono no Aware. I hope my Japanese pronunciation is correct. It probably sounds terrible, but anyway, Mono no Aware. Basically, it's it's not just it's not just saying it, but being completely mindful of it. Okay, so what is it? What are you to be mindful of in Mono no Aware? What is it that you're mindful of? It's the transience of things. You don't need to be a Japanese to realize this. When in Mono no Aware, it just reminds you of how things change, either gradually or fast or instantly or slowly. Especially in the modern world where everyone seems to be obsessed or forced to be obsessed or taught to be obsessed with hyper productivity. People just keep going without being mindful of what's happening. Really, they just know that they're doing something, and they're than just complying with requirements or, meeting up deadlines or adhering to certain standards. But they don't, they don't stop and just really sense the transiency of things. Things change, okay? Like the cute girl that you see now is not going to be as cute in 30 years. That's just the way it is, right? That's biology. But we don't, people don't stop to observe how things change because, well, everyone's busy. Like everyone's busy or everyone is obsessed with productivity and perfection and complying to requirements or adhering to like standards. But then when you just sit down and look at, how, let's say, birds in the sky soar and move from one point in the sky to another, there is movement. And it takes a very mindful person to really notice and appreciate the fact that birds like soar high in the sky and they move from one place to another. And without transiency, without change, then there would be no movement. There would be no movement, like absolutely, okay? And it's the same when you look at trees, okay? When you look at trees, you see leaves falling down sometimes, perhaps, okay? But there are times that, leaves just fall down. And that, again, that's change from the attachment of leaves to the branches of the trees to like detachment and falling. When there is movement, there is transiency, there is change, right? So again, this statue here, this Japanese statue, reminds me of Kintsugi, Zen, and Mono no Aware. Okay, this guy here. It looks like, I don't know, a monk or a philosopher, I don't know, maybe both. Right? So thank you very much for listening.